Hi, this is Paula Glory, and this show is called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole because we like to go into topics more deeply. And today we're coming from Rabbitholecentral because the studios at M&M actually have a very poor Skype connection. And what we're going to be doing is calling in to Rick Simpson, and he's in Czechoslovakia. We're going to do it through Skype, and I'm going to call him now.
And doesn't this need to be on speakerphone, this telephone?
Yeah.
Hang on, let me get
speaker. No, it's right.
I know it's right. I gotta extend it.
So we're going to make a Skype test call and get the sound levels. It's okay because I'm going to edit all of this. As soon as we hit 58 minutes.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service. After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
So we are recording a message just to see how the Skype sounds. And Joe, you want to say something?
Joe, you talk so low.
Here, hand him the mic.
So we are recording a message just to see how the Skype sounds. And Joe, you want to say something?
So you're using the speakerphone?
You talk so low.
It's good.
Yeah, but that's coming through Skype.
If you are able to hear your own voice, then you have configured Skype correctly. Okay. If you hear this message, but not your own voice, then something is wrong with your audio
I trust this thing.
settings.
It shouldn't have to be this
Please
close.
check your microphone and microphone settings, or visit...
So
Hey, Rick, is that you?
Yes, it is, dear.
Great. How are we sounding?
Especially
Perfect.
how's that
Perfect.
Joe Friendly coming through, Rick?
Joe, you're coming through loud and clear, brother.
I'm in, bro.
All right. So, Rick, what I'd like to do actually is get on the line Joe Barton and also Lucie, the one who called in about the brain tumor. Would you like to do that, or should I hold off?
Well, whatever you want to do, Paula, it's fine by me.
Okay. So let's call up, can you dial 845?
Good to be on the air again with you folks.
Hi.
684 5269. And that'll be Joe.
And then put it on speakerphone eventually. There's but.
Hello?
Joe, we're going to connect up with Lucie now because we've got Rick on the line. You want to say hello to Rick?
Leave it in between.
Hey Rick, how you doing?
You're doing fine, Joe. We're going to be putting out a video probably within the next week about you, so I hope I can put a little bit of force behind you.
Well, I could use all the help I could get. You know, I'm really fighting to change the law, but we have a thing here in New York. When the legislature made the marijuana law, in their own documents, they state scientific evidence clearly shows no significant harm or no harm at all for marijuana. And then they went and made criminal penalties. I'm saying, how can you make criminal penalties for something that the legislature admits does no harm? That's what my case basically is. Also, I'm saying it's my religious belief, and I was using it to heal.
Can you?
Well, they did that study, what was it, 1977, Joe?
Yep, 1977. And we have their documents that Abigail Storm researched, and she found where they, in their own documents, admit that it does no harm.
Well, that's not surprising. That's our wonderful government.
Fellas, if I can interject,
Oh,
please.
excuse me. Before, how are the sound levels? Are you each hearing each other okay? Because Molly says we're
I'm hearing him real weak, but
You're hearing
I am
him weak.
hearing him.
Can we put this over there then? Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Rick,
no,
are you hearing?
The mic for him is here.
No,
No.
but he can't hear.
I'm hearing everything good, Paula.
Okay, how about that, Joe? Can you hear Rick?
I can hear him good now.
Okay,
Oh,
perfect.
good.
Great. That's what I wanted to do.
So I had jumped in, if you're cool with that.
Yes, jump in.
I wanted to respond to where you were just at that very instant. And Rick said, well, that's the kind of government we got. And I wanted to go the next step and cure the problem. As you know, I used my Juris Doctor's degree from the University of Chicago Law School to consider the marijuana laws. And I have been a bad boy by not being more public. So here's like a public confession, but in the form of an actual answer. In the form, Joe, of just elucidating on an email I sent you, which apparently you haven't gotten yet, which details what I would offer as the proper legal strategy for your situation. And I like the way you just put it, that you downplayed the religious use and played up the fact of the 77 state statement that, yes, there is no harmfulness. So what I say is that you have a good situation to present that to the court by telling the court that, number one, they have an obligation to protect the individual from overreaching by the state, and therefore they have to scrutinize legislation, that there is a presumption that all legislation is constitutional, that all legislation survives a vagueness test and all the rest of it. But that presumption is overcome by a showing of the defendant, you have to make a showing that there are fundamental, constitutionally protected rights at stake, and you show how the right, whatever you come up with, is impinged upon by this law.
Would you testify at my trial?
My pleasure, brother. So,
yeah?
But this is a legal argument, so just check it out. This can go in words on paper, and I did email you more or less the same rap as I'm laying on, but in legal language. But I'll just walk it through slowly. So what I'm saying...
Emailed it to what?
To your son, because you don't have an email, Joe.
Oh,
so I emailed it to your son, and he's supposed to forward it to you.
Under what name is it emailed? It's under J, but I mean...
j.rockandroll@gmail.com.
Right. And who's it from? What's it titled? So what? Because he's got 100 things on his.
I only sent from Paula Gloria 3.
Oh, it's from. All right, it's from you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll find it.
But what Joe is going to detail right now is the right to think. So I don't know. Oh, now I need it. So I don't know what Rick Simpson experienced in Canada. What his defense was if he went that way. Or you don't want me to. You want to?
I don't mind. Whatever.
Rick, what's your comment?
Well, I mean, Paula, I went through a charter challenge. I mean, under the Charter of Rights in Canada, it states that we have the right to life. And that's what I fought it under in the beginning, because, I mean, you have the right to the most medicinal plant in the world to preserve your life, don't you? Absolutely. But, of course, the court system ignored that. And then when we got into the Supreme Court, it was just total corruption from wall to wall. I mean, all the lawyers, the judge, they all knew what I was saying was the absolute truth, but they just turned their backs on it. Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, if the legal system is going to behave in this manner, you know, I'm looking at Joe's case, and what I'm hoping to do is get thousands of people surrounding that court. Let's make them damn uncomfortable with what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what I want, Rick.
Wow,
you know what? For 14 months, I put in all these motions that the lawyer that was helping me said these are good arguments and they should answer them. And the prosecutor refused to answer any of my motions, including now it's gone 18 months and we have a thing on speedy trial in America. They're supposed to get you to trial within 6 months. I asked them to throw this out because of speedy trial, and they have ignored that. And they're 6 months it's supposed to be, and we're at 18 months now, and they still want to go forward with the trial.
Wow, this, you know, I do apologize, Rick in particular, that you did try this legal maneuvering, and that the court are too corrupt to respond in the language I was saying. Hey, fella, here's the answer. So
I wish it was that simple, Joe.
You know, I actually take the law somewhat seriously. But I'm trying to picture, you know, I haven't seen how the motions went. Can you walk me through some of the outright wrongness of the way the judges have acted in terms of the motion practice? As far as the...
it's so lengthy. If you go to freedomfirstparty.org, all my paperwork has been put up there.
Oh, no.
I put motion after motion after motion.
Okay, fine.
But Joe, can you just go through the highlights of it, because a lot of the viewers aren't going to exert themselves, and they're very interesting motions.
I've been saying, I'm a shaman, And religious shaman all through history people have gone to the religious shaman to get the herbs for healing. So I'm saying it's a spiritual substance to me. It's a sacrament, and I have a right to heal with it. You know, under the Constitution, freedom of religion, they can't deny it. And they've also said the American Indians can use peyote. They've said the Brazilians can use ayahuasca. You know, and I see no difference in hash oil for a cure. And that's what I was doing. I'm trying to get the guy's wife, Sam's wife, to testify at my case, but I've been trying to get Abigail to do it for months because she knows her and I don't know her. And she's always been busy doing all these other things.
Say, Rick, Sam, by the way, Sam is the man that Joe gave oil to. Who can you describe his cancer? Joe? He
had cancer on his neck on the side, and it was huge when I saw him. And he could talk only in whisper. And then I gave him 25 grams of oil that he was doing. Unfortunately, he was only doing small amounts. He was doing about a quarter gram a day because he wanted to stretch it. And his lump went down by half, and his vocals came back. You could hear him when he speak, and he was feeling better, and he was getting better. And then when the police kicked in my door, I had made more oil for him. I had 50 more grams for him, and the police took it.
God.
Sam died.
That is just so disgusting. Joe, I mean, since Jack Hare died, well, it was Jack's dying wish that I be made leader of the hemp movement. So apparently I'm the new leader of the hemp movement worldwide. So every bit of support I can put behind you, Joe, I will.
Well, I can use all the support. If I can get this enough publicity on this, I might be able to get them to have to do the right thing. Right now, they're trying not to, just like they did to you, trying not to let me speak. But if there were 1,000 people around the courthouse, or even 500 people around the courthouse, it makes them very hard for them to shut me up. And I'm not the kind of person that shuts up, you know. Even when they try to stifle me, I just keep talking until he pushes it too.
I think you and I are quite alike in that way, Joe.
I don't keep talking. I'm willing. If I go to jail, I'm going to fast. I'm going to tell them I'm going to fast until either God or the people get me out and fix this. And I'm willing to go all the way and die for this. I mean, I've been fighting this for 40 years too, Rick. This is my 4th case on freedom of religion. I didn't have a lot of the information I had back in 72, 74 when I did the cases down in New Jersey. You know, there was none of the medical evidence back then. Now there is.
Okay, now on the level of medical evidence, what I'd like to do is Coley Clark is going to be joining pretty soon, and her brother has brain cancer, and she's one of the people, I'm knowing many of them, Rick, who they just cannot get the oil. They don't have the money to get the oil. They don't have the kind of connections to get the oil, and it's almost painful to be showing them these things. So what I was hoping to do, I have to go up to the studio to help somebody else at 2 o'clock, and I want to help somebody else at 2 o'clock because he has as a guest on his show a lady who's an ace networker for raising money for charities and things. And I think, you know, he had somebody, you know how Christian has run from the cure? He actually had a runner on his show that raised $63,000 just in his run alone that was given to the American Cancer Society. Now, these are all innocent people that think they're doing the right thing, that the American Cancer Society is actually caring about cancer. So what I want to highlight on the remainder of my 58 minutes is to see if we can, first of all, I want to find out, the only thing I want to go in legalities, Rick, is when they raided you and they took 1,600 hemp plants, how many people were depending on that oil, and was there an experience like what Joe just described with Sam, that as a result of not getting the oil, they died? And then I also want to discuss good oil on the market, the importance of giving people oil that's made from the best quality bud. And then I want to get Lucie on the line herself with Joe Barton to see, because the scientists and the institutions are not studying this. Joe has had some very interesting experiences with cookies and very high concentrations of THC. So that's what I'd like to do. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, I agree that it should be the highest quality. We got to get the best to people, because the best is what works.
Right. But what I'm saying is, after I leave, then this legal thing, Joe can do another hour, because Joe is a graduate of
this and that.
Of which law school?
The California Institute, University of Chicago Law School.
But no, say why you didn't join the bar.
And all that too. I'm a recovering lawyer in many senses, but when it comes,
I love that statement. A recovering lawyer.
You like that?
I have occasion to feel that's the move to make often in life. And I really, you don't know what you get into, guys. I actually have been talking it up publicly, kind of among people out loud. You know, I just came back from my 50th Caltech reunion, and having worked a lot of my life as a household furniture mover, it was nice to be around and still feel that I am a cut above the rest. That at the president's dinner, he said, compared to Yale and Harvard and MIT and even Stanford, we are the top. That we have the publications on our side, that we ranked 5 out of 7 categories #1. And so again, even though I've been a truck driver, guys, I feel that my mind...
She's not picking you up.
I can't believe that.
Mic closer to your face.
Mic closer to your face.
You're cheating. You're not using the earphones. How do you know?
Oh, okay.
No, your voice doesn't
your framing was a big disappointment. You know, you had me...
Ask them if they can hear him.
Yeah,
She was
well,
trying
that's
to get
2 different mics.
Anyway.
Anyhow, I know this mic. This will work fine, and we're in automatic for crying out loud.
Okay.
This can make a whole room. This is the famous ECM 50.
Okay, we're having little technical power struggles here, but we'll overcome that. So what you're saying, Joe, is you come from all the best background to kick in.
But what I've been saying is that I've actually designed a whole new legal system, and here's the rap I've been saying.
No, you have to say it at your hour, because I need to get Lucie. That's what I was outlining, you guys. I just want to focus on my hour, the cancer patients, and I want to get Lucie on the line. She's waiting.
I agree with you
because
that but we got to get the oil. That's the
right. So can you hang on, Joe?
Yeah, I'll hang. Oh, we got 2 Joes.
Did you want me to comment about that raid in 2005, Paula?
Yeah. Do that while I get Lucie.
Okay. Well, the raid in 2005 definitely cost people some people their lives, because I was growing the medicine, and I was growing the hemp and producing the medicine and giving it away. Now, after the police came and took the crop, I mean, I did have many people under treatment, but I went out and took my own money and went out and bought hemp from other growers and produced the oil and made sure that those people got, finished their treatments. But there was many people that came to me in the same situation like Joe describes, with no money. There was nothing I could do for them, because I had nothing to work with. The growers all wanted like $2,400 a pound, for the material I needed. So there was only so far I could go with it. So the raids that were conducted on my property in 2005 and 2006, both of those raids cost many people their lives. I think what's going on in Joe's case is really not much different than mine. And I know in my case, in Canada, of course, most people stayed home because they don't like to be involved with the court system. And I can't really say I blame them. But at least during the sentencing, about 35 people did come out. And you could tell, just with the presence of those people, how much difference it made. They were very, very uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, the first time I'd ever heard of metal detectors being set up in a courtroom in Amherst occurred during my sentencing. They set up the metal detectors because they were just a little bit afraid, I think. But it seems to me, in my case, they went through a great deal. I mean, they bent the rules. They did well, like I said, the Crown prosecutor even tampered with the jury, and they wouldn't do, and the judge wouldn't do a thing about it. So they bent over backwards to see that I was convicted. But once they got me convicted, they didn't know what to do. Because, I mean, I was facing 12 years in jail. All they gave me was a $2,000 fine. They never even put me on probation. And I think the only reason they gave me the fine was I kept telling the judge off. And I mean, I won't sit there and listen to some idiot in a penguin suit babble, on to me about a subject he knows nothing about. So I don't take that kind of nonsense for a second, and I don't mind straightening these people out. And every time I blasted off or teed off on him, he couldn't even look me in the eyes. He would just drop his head. These people, somewhere inside, they were ashamed of what they were doing. But it wouldn't take I don't want to see bloodshed or anything over this issue. But if these people don't wise up, something's got to be done.
Got to wake up the people, Rick, and we got to get these criminals out of office.
Yeah, well, every political party, I mean, they're all the same. I ran in 2 federal elections. I mean, I don't care where you're at. Politics, if you're in a party, you're part of the corruption. The only way you're ever going to get honest politics is to have independent members and no more of these parties. And we need a government of people, smart people. Take people, 2 of the best in fisheries, 2 of the best in medicine, 2 of the best in farming. Put them in a think tank and let them make the day-to-day decisions to run your country. And everything done with an open book policy to the public, nothing hidden anymore. No more of these backroom meetings. And then you would have government for the people instead of all this corruption.
Okay, Rick, I've now got on the line Lucie along with Joe. Do you want to say hello?
Hello, Lucie.
Hello, Rick. Glad to meet you.
Hello, Lucie.
Hi. Glad to meet you, too.
So what I would like to do right now is, Joe heard my show with you, Lucie, yesterday, and Rick heard it also when he was in Czechoslovakia. And I want to determine, the big question is, if Lucie could get more oil, do you think, Rick, with your experience, I mean, how many patients have you had, Rick?
Oh, hundreds, thousands. I mean, I've supplied the oil to probably in total, to see a lot of people contacted me just through the mail, and I never even met them. Like, I've had 2,500 to 3,000 people come directly to my home, and probably another couple thousand that contacted me through the mail. So somewhere in around 5,000 people I expect I supplied the oil to.
Now, what's your experience with...
God bless you, Rick.
Thank you, Joe.
Right. God bless you, for sure. The 2 questions I have is, I guess I was busy doing technical things, but when the 1,600 plants were taken away, how many people do you estimate died because of that?
Well, it's hard to give an exact estimate, dear, because I mean, I didn't get to crop, I didn't get to crop it. So I didn't, I can't really tell you exactly how much oil I would have had. But I could literally say that hundreds and hundreds of people didn't get their treatments because of those raids. And where I didn't have the money to go out and buy the material because I pretty well spent everything I had by that point. So, I mean, if these people couldn't get the material themselves or if they didn't know a grower, then I know some of them did die.
Ashanti wants to...
If he had gotten a half a pound per plant, that would have been 800 pounds. 800 pounds, he could have got 50 grams per pound of oil.
Yeah.
Now,
oh, yeah, it would have been a great number of people cured, there's no question. Now, like Lucie's situation, I mean, it's all about the availability of the oil. Yes, I mean, if the oil was available, it would certainly be a great thing, for Lucie's situation. But, I mean, why aren't these doctors simply inoculating the tumors like they've been doing with all the rats and guinea pigs for decades, in their laboratories? They've been doing this forever, but yet you've got a human being laying there dying, and they have THC, and they want to inoculate the tumor.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, dear.
This is Shanti.
Hi there, Rick. Of all the people that you have provided with
Joe, can you move the camera to
with the oil, Rick, have you been keeping track of them at all so that there's some statistics on the benefits of the oil, of the enormous amount of people that you have provided with this help? Have you kept any?
Well, you couldn't do that because, I mean, if I kept records and everything, you see, every time the police busted in, well, then they would have records to go right back to who I sent it to.
I understand. So I understand that. Do you get any feedback from the people though who have used them stuff? And even if you haven't kept records, are you getting calls or letters of appreciation or something like that?
Oh yes. Here just yesterday, I had 2 emails from 2 different people who I'd never even come in contact with. Both of them had been dying with terminal lung cancer. Both of them were told that that they had just a short time to live. Just go home and die. They heard about the oil, they made the oil, and this is like a year later, and they're both cancer-free. So I get feedback on this all the time, and it's all positive. I mean, the medicine works, dear, and there's just no damn question. But the question is, what's wrong with us for letting this system do this to us?
Well, there's no damn doubt about it to you, because you've seen all of this, and this is why I really enjoy my deep and many hour discussions with Christian Lorette, because in order to produce Run from the Cure, he also saw many of these cases. You were the one that insisted to him that he take about 7 tubes worth long after his pain went away for his back pain. So you have an understanding about this that others don't have, and we all seek and depend on a protocol, which is the scientists doing studies with clipboards and thermometers and blood pressure. And so we're just asking you this innocently. We don't mean to make you angry or upset. It's just we just don't know, and that's what we've depended on. So what I want to take in here, what Shanti asked, and to really emphasize for my viewers, is that the reason one very important reason that keeping records would be difficult is because if the police came, they would be able to find the people who had this illegal substance. So you don't want to put them in danger. Did you understand that, Shanti?
Oh, I understood it fully, and I also wondered if there wasn't a smart way of being able to keep your records like Leonardo da Vinci did, like writing upside down or backwards or whatever. But in order to be able to keep...
The only real way to do that, Shanti, is if the patients themselves want to document their stuff. And if they choose to put it out publicly, for anyone like Rick or myself, to put sick people in jeopardy is not the right thing to do. I agree with Rick on not keeping records, but people who've been healed should speak up so that they can help other people get healed.
Yeah, but Joe, that is the problem right there. I mean, back when I was going through my charter challenge, I put out 120 affidavits to different people that had taken the oil. Now, it took me 3 months, but at the end of the 3 months, I could only collect 48 sworn affidavits. I had people that had used the oil and cured their cancers, and they refused to get involved. That's a good part of what's wrong with this world. People, they want to be cured, but they don't want to stand up for anyone else, or they don't want to stand up for the truth.
To me, that is really...
But the government has created such fear in the people. Everybody fears the government right now. We got to fix that.
But Rick, that's part of the problem. Fear is part of people's illness. That's the root of the illness.
What are we afraid of, Paula? I mean, the people are the power, not the government.
I know, Rick, but this is why you're a healer, Rick. You have seen the evidence. You've seen hundreds of cases. I know it because of thousands of cases. I know it because of my long discussions with Christian Lorette. But people have come to me and they say, Paula, how can you be so bold to be giving so much time to this, and you've never even seen the oil? You've never seen somebody get cured. But I look at the pictures, I look at the 11 patents, I followed the Mendocino County symposium that was put on by the health department. I look at not only the physical problems with people with cancer, but there's a whole nother aspect, which is our economic problems. Our whole society is out of kilter because there is a monopoly on this plant, and the only people that will break the monopoly are people who will risk going into jail. Those are the people that supply the market with the product that they want. Now, the product that most people want is enjoyed for recreational purposes. They don't even know that this medicine is destroyed by the smoking. Like, I don't think, Joe, you've never even had oil, have you?
No.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Oh, we have. Somebody's got a telephone. No, not mine. It's not mine. I don't know whose telephone it is. It's your telephone. It's Joe's telephone. So I think a cell phone is a new thing for Joe Friendly here. But so do you see what my drift is, Rick? We can't be angry at people for being frightened when
yes, we can be, Paula.
Oh, okay.
People have got. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, do.
That's the problem. People have got to stop being such chickens. I mean, come on, if you've been cured from cancer by the oil, it is your moral duty to stand up and to speak out. And they can throw me in jail, but I'm not going to shut up.
That's right, Lucie, that's right.
Is the oil.
What state are you from?
Me? Well,
yeah.
I'm just moved out of Illinois.
Oh, I wish you were in New York. I would bring you into my trial, you know?
Well, I'd fly, if I'd go there. I mean, I don't have, I'm broke, of course.
No, I don't have the money to do it either. I'm so broke, I'm doing my case myself.
Yes, I know, they like it that way, you know?
Maybe somebody listening to this program can foot the bill for you.
Yeah, I am looking for some serious sponsors because we really are getting to the point where even people that are viewing this, what is a better insurance policy than knowledge? And the Concordia Foundation and Rabbitholecentral TV is really exerting itself to assemble the knowledge, to scrutinize it under the limitations that we're working, where you can't even do studies. I know, Rick, you were probably so busy. You're not the kind of Virgo mentality that would even, you would need people to conduct the studies. You should have people to conduct the studies. It should not be illegal. This plant shouldn't be illegal.
Well, the trouble is, Gloria, is who do we get to conduct the studies? I mean, who can we trust to conduct the studies honestly? We've had thousands of scientific studies that were totally bogus.
That's a good point also. So now,
and even the scientists that might agree with us, they're afraid that they're not going to get grants if they come out and speak.
Right. That's a good point. But I know that they're following. There are good people in the world. And Lucie, I think it's great what you just said. If more people knew, it's sort of a domino effect. When I was up at Albany, Abigail said that the gathering was smaller than the year before when the Grateful Dead had attracted a lot of people. And in spite of having a lot of people, only 10 or 15 actually had the guts to go into the Capitol building to see the governor. This time, there didn't seem to be that many people, but all of a sudden, they came out of the woodwork. Young, gorgeous, enthusiastic, people were coming, and that was a very good sign. So I'm thinking that people are on the verge. I'd like this to be the type of show that could be pivotal, that somebody who has been shy before can say, you know what, I'm not alone. There's so many like me that if I stand up, there'll be more that will stand with me. And most importantly, though, the real purpose of this show is, how do we get oil to Lucie, and how does Rick think, how much oil can she take? And I would like Joe Barton also to give his experience of how much oil a human being can handle.
Well, you can handle a lot. Back in 1969, I ate, in 72, I ate almost an ounce of hash oil. It had me out for days, but it didn't hurt me.
I've had more.
No, and I think that in a situation where you have someone dying from cancer, what would be the harm of taking them into a hospital and giving them enough oil that they're actually in a comatose situation for days, where you can monitor them, because the oil is not going to do them any harm at all. And actually what we find with this method of flooding the body with THC, it's all about how fast you can get the oil in there. The faster you can get the oil in, the faster you get ahead of the cancer and beat it back. So, I mean, I always encourage people to take it as rapidly as possible. But as far as hurting yourself or overdosing, well, overdosing on this oil is more or less just a joke because, like I said, it's harmless. So, you know what, I don't really foresee any problems at all as far as this medicine goes.
Okay, so Rick, now based on your experience of thousands of people, and undoubtedly you must have had a lot of brain cancer tumor patients also, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, what do you think about Lucie's case?
Well, I think it's entirely curable. It's just a shame she hadn't had the oil, you know, years ago. But I mean, I think this oil is capable of curing any type of cancer. But I mean, there are certain people in situations where they have just waited too long. I mean, I've had the odd person come to me and die the next day because they just didn't get the oil into them quickly enough.
But listen to this, Rick. You know, because I was editing Lucie's show. She was saying that her cancer was considered incurable, that chemo would not work, that that radiation, you know, they couldn't radiate her brain because they would, you know, they would kill her doing that. In a way, I think this might be a blessing because she wasn't ravaged by chemo and radiation. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. I agree entirely. I mean, because of the people, I mean, if you come to us with no radiation or chemo damage and you have cancer, if you got good oil, it's basically a given that the oil is going to work for you. But in people that have been badly damaged by chemo and radiation, in about 75% of cases, we can turn them around and save them. But there are some people who have been so badly damaged with the chemo and radiation that no matter what you do, you know, you can't save them. But the oil, even in situations like that, the oil does ease their way out. They don't die in pain, and they don't have to go on morphine. They know everyone right to the end, so they die with dignity. And that, I think, is important, too. And I've had families that had family members that did die, and they still called me up and thanked me for what the oil had done for them.
Now, did you notice that Lucie said that after she watched Run from the Cure, she was so indoctrinated by her doctors that her cancer was incurable that she didn't even think that hemp oil would work? And then what made the penny drop, Lucie, when you realized that it might work?
A YouTube friend, oh God, post how do you say that? I can't say his name, but he kept reposting over and over.
Oh yes, Essiac, Laetril, that guy.
Absolutely, yeah. And I kept rereading the post, and then I finally was like, well, wow, you know, maybe it can help me. And then, of course, another friend helped me with the oil, and I never felt better in my life. And I want to say, too, that I have a separate cancer, well, it's not a glioma in the back of my head, which has not grown at all since the last MRI. I hadn't talked about my second tumor at all. So this is actually two different types of brain tumors.
Are you in a place where you can grow your own?
If I want to go to prison. No, I'm not.
Oh. We need more people to grow and supply. See, that's what I was doing. But one or two people, we need to overgrow the government. If everybody started growing and curing cancer, then the government can't keep up with it. They're going to have to admit that it's working.
Absolutely.
It can't be just me and Rick and a couple people. It has to be done in mass.
Absolutely.
Now speaking,
the word has got to get out that it's not about getting high. This plant is about curing cancer and saving people, even people with MS.
It's about getting healed. You're absolutely right, dear. But believe me, I mean, the forces are coming together to make this thing happen. I mean, I just led the marijuana march in Prague here on May 8th, and we had over 12,000 people marching right through the middle of Prague. And all of these people standing on the sidelines cheering us on. I mean, there are places in the world where they are a bit more open-minded. So it's just a matter of time. This medicine is coming, but, I mean, the faster we can put an end to this, the quicker we can start saving, some lives here. So, I mean, the governments, they have to get off their asses and start doing the right thing, or it's going to turn very ugly.
Rick, I think if we can win in New York, I think I actually have a chance of winning if I have enough support. If we win in New York, how New York goes is how the world will go.
Well, and what I'm seeing right now, too, with California talking about full legalization in November, I mean, once this is legalized, when people, I mean, there's people everywhere now using the oil, particularly in California. But once they realize, like, this oil is just going to sweep across the planet in a wave of healing such as the human race has never seen before. And it's going to change everything.
Now, Rick, let's talk about good quality oil, because instead of, the New World Order and the Illuminati and all of that, we have within our own community people who, everybody's very financially strapped. And I think there's a tendency to cut corners. Can you talk about the importance of the oil being out of the very expensive bud that for recreational purposes? I mean, how much would it go for if people use it recreationally? The very finest. Do you know, Joe, what's the very finest goes for?
It's average. The really good bud average here in New York is going for between $4,000 and $4,500 a pound. But if they were allowed to grow it, I mean, if it was legal and people could grow it, that could come down to where it would be maybe $500 a pound for people to grow it, or less. Now,
Abigail told me in Albany that they're moving forward with this medical marijuana bill. And a senator was walking down the hall, and he was surprised because, Abigail, has the vibe of a marijuana person. She's casually dressed and earthy, and she somehow, the senator realized that she was against the medical marijuana bill, and he was stunned. He stopped in the hall, he turned around, and he goes, "What? You're against the medical marijuana bill?" Can you explain, Joe, why she's against it?
Well, I'm against it also because, first of all, they don't allow people to grow plants, especially enough plants to make oil. Oil is not, is still going to be illegal. The government is going to be checking on the doctors to make sure that they give the prescriptions. The people who get the prescriptions can't smoke it with anybody else present in the room. I mean, it's got such crazy rules that it's another one where they made a law that can't be obeyed. You can't, what are medical marijuana people going to do? If they can't grow their own and they can't have the quantities that they need to make oil, and if they make oil, they're now criminal. It's a smoke screen.
I know.
Allow people to smoke a few joints, get a little bit of relief, but they're not allowing people to be healed.
Well, now, Shanti says it's one.
Release of all the bills, the Illinois bill, cut it down from 12 plants to 3 plants.
What's that, Lucie?
In the Illinois bill, it has been cut down from 12 plants to just 3 plants. No more than 2 dry ounces. You can't make enough oil out of that. So it would be useless for me to have stayed in Illinois anyway. And it hasn't passed yet. They're saying today's the day, but I don't know.
Well,
not there no more.
Along the lines,
it's just a smoke screen for the politicians to look like they're doing something when they're not doing anything.
Okay, now Shanti thinks we have to get off that tack, but before I turn it over to Shanti, I want to say that Abigail said that even though this law has not yet passed, I think it'll be on the 15th of June that it'll be determined, already in anticipation, $300 million is set aside to make it happen. To me, that's $300 million worth of enforcement. So that's my 2 cents about foot in the door.
That is what I think it's going to be.
Joe, I don't really disagree with you fundamentally. But I do...
Or Abigail.
Or even you, Abigail.
No, Abigail's not on.
No, or even Abigail.
She's
right? No, well, not Lucie, right. Okay. Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. That's right. Thank you. But let me just get the point across to you. I think that the concept of 1 foot in the door, which means if we can make any breakthrough, it's better than none. And then we can start to improve upon it. I used to be of the same mind as you. but I see that this is the way we do things. We like to do things overnight, but that's not the way the government works, and we've got to be realistic. I mean...
Yeah, but I disagree for the reason that what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we've passed this bill, therefore we're not going to look at it for another 10 years.
Well,
and cancer patients don't have 10 years to wait.
Okay, Shanti doesn't agree with that, but let me tell you, I'm going to be switching from focusing on cancer now to focusing on the economy, because almost, when I got involved with 9/11 Truth, a lot of people were, certainly in New York, were psychologically harmed, and some people actually knew people in the buildings that died. Now, when it comes to this marijuana issue and the cannabis cure, practically everybody knows somebody with cancer, so this is relevant. But when it comes to the economy, I can't think of one person that's not affected, including the few very wealthy people who are on the right side of the monopoly. They also, even if they want to do the right thing, are really dumbfounded as to where to begin. So I'm concerned about the foot in the door, because people will think that this $300 million is just sort of a kind of a rearranging of the furniture, so the people who had their privileged positions in the past will continue with those privileged positions. I think now is the time that we should really be thinking, is the labor theory of value correct? People kicked in your doors, Rick, and I understand one of them came back later asking for some hemp oil for his own father who was dying of cancer. Now, this is a person who clearly needs another job, or if there's no jobs, he needs capital ownership in where wealth is really amassing, and that is in capital. Capital produces more wealth than labor. So this is the time, I think, to take those who are expanded in their thinking process through the psychedelic experience or whatever. Let's take the best of the breakthroughs that Leary made and see if we can put them into practice. So that's why I'm saying this medical marijuana bill is going to be something that has the potential to divide people. And I think we should, really pay attention to the arguments. I don't want to see a lot more enforcement, jobs made for enforcement.
California tax and relegate is a bill that's going to really divide people.
Explain, Lucy.
Excuse me?
Explain more. I have the mic on.
I'm sorry again.
Your voice doesn't come through as clearly, so I've got the mic closer, and I want you to repeat what you said.
I said the California tax and relegate legislation they're planning on trying to vote through in November. I think people really need to read that. I think it's very dangerous. And it's not re-legalization. And I am absolutely against it. I just wanted to put that through. It's going to put the young in prison, and for the benefit of the older generation to follow these strict rules. And we'll never get hemp oil. It limits the amount so much, and I heard it can even override the medical bill in California on the limits of the plant.
Can you, Lucy, you know this better than I do. Can you explain it very slowly? Or Rick or Joe, do you understand what she's saying?
No, I don't know that the bill. I'm in New York. I don't know a lot about it. I know they're trying to get it on the ballot out in California, but all the different points I don't know.
Oh, I think everybody should really look into it because, like they say, what starts in Cali goes across the country, and this dangerous legalization should not. And I'm just asking people to look into it. I've been very concerned for a long time about it. And it will limit the amount of plant. No, there will never be hemp oil made. Allows 1 ounce. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's.
Well, I can interrupt here. I believe there should be no limitations on any plants. I mean, I preach the gospel of Jack Hare. Grow it everywhere, use it for everything, and the cops better start minding their own business because they need it too. I mean, this medicine should be grown freely, and as far as I'm concerned, you should be able to go out and buy a pound or a kilo of good hemp for $5. And if you could grow it freely, you could. And then we could heal the world. All of these restrictions, all of this nonsense does not work.
Okay, now along the lines of growing it everywhere, because I've had in-depth discussions independently with all of you, I was surprised that Joe said that by having a lot of hemp growing on a commercial level, cross-pollinates with some of the finer plants that clearly are going to be the plants that are needed for healing. Can you discuss that, Joe?
Okay, I can tell you what happened. I'm an old-time hippie. In the 60s, when there wasn't a big demand for marijuana, the pot coming in from Acapulco, the pot coming in from Panama, the gold Colombian pot that was coming in was so good and so strong. Then it became so popular, everyone wanted marijuana. So the commercial growers started growing marijuana, and then the pollen from the commercial plants pollinated the plants that were grown for thousands of years, and we lost all those strains. Now then there was just this shitty commercial grade all over the place, and finally, you know, people like that in Amsterdam started breeding again to breed back some of the good strains, but they still haven't come close to the strains that we used to have. And if it gets commercial, I think the only regulation that the government should do on marijuana is they should set certain areas for commercial marijuana and certain areas where medical marijuana is grown. Because if you grow the two any place close to each other, we're going to lose all the medical strains.
You're absolutely right, Joe. It has to be grown in a controlled environment, and you're perfectly right.
So commercial strains can hurt us, you know. That's one of the reasons why I've been fighting with the farmers. The farmers want to grow it. But if they put a couple states aside, if they said, like, you know, in the middle of the country where the wheat belt is, they're going to grow all the commercial, then they could grow enough to fuel this country. If they can get 500 gallons of ethanol per acre, we could get off the oil standard in this country. So I think that's a good thing, but they should have some states set aside for growing commercial and other states where you can't grow commercial because there's medical being grown.
Well, the 500 gallons per acre, that was the estimate that I always used too, but over the last while here, I've heard that through some new enzyme process that they can get as much as 1,800 gallons per acre, you know, of ethanol. And on top of that, I mean, they're always going on to us about this supposed energy crisis. Well, I mean, look at sea algae. By weight, sea algae is 40% by weight oil. Now, all we have to do is harvest that. It replenishes itself. There never has been an energy crisis.
It's big money.
It's just money, yes.
That controls the world, the big oil, big pharma. And it's time they had their power taken away. And I just, please people, stand up and speak about your cures.
Well, I really don't know how these rich types, these people that are causing all this, I don't know how they sleep at night. You know, when I look at Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and all of those names, it just makes me sick.
But sold a long time ago.
No,
families.
But Rick, what are we going to do right now about people who really should be knowing better, putting oil on the market that's not made out of the best part of the plant?
Well, I mean, you can't control the criminal mind. I mean, there's going to be people out there they don't care. They'll supply you with anything to fill their pockets, and that's the reason I tell everyone, if you want the real thing, produce it yourself. Because at this point in time, that's the only way that you know that you're going to get it.
But
you know,
Rick,
I mean, don't trust these drug dealers, believe me.
But Rick, here in New York City, we can't grow our own. You know,
Well, anybody can grow their own. I mean, I can take a 4-foot closet and I can grow enough hemp to supply myself with medicine. So, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that say they can't do it just because they can't be bothered. But if you're dying, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish.
Okay, now with what
you got to be quiet though, you know.
And to add to what Rick said, in New York, people can get pounds of weed. If they get the weed themselves, it's a very simple process for them to make it themselves. All they need to do is buy good bud, and they can be sure of the quality they're getting.
I understand that, but that's why a lot of people, I think, are afraid to speak out, because once they speak out, and then they're putting themselves as targets. And we got to get it off Schedule 1. That I want to say that, too. It's absolutely criminal that it's there. And I can't believe people are so passive. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, well, fighting it in court. More people have to stand up. It can't be just Rick and me and one or two others. We need many, many people to start going into court, and they can download my documents, and there's other people who fought these cases. And if enough people start doing it, we can jam up the system. You know, the court, like I've tied up this court for 18 months. Normally they would have had me in jail within 2 to 3 months. But my paperwork, they don't know how to answer it. And if enough people did that, we could tie up the courts that pretty soon they'll say, look, we got to stop with this marijuana because it's costing the courts and the police and everything too much money. More people got to be willing to stand up.
But they make so much money. What about these privatized prisons? I mean, we're the only country in the world that has privatized prisons. It's so much money in keeping it illegal.
Yeah, but it's still the government. The privatized prisons are getting money for, when they put prisoners in, the federal government pays them. Now, after eventually, the people are going to get fed up with this. You know, like I said, it costs $40,000 to $60,000 just to put a kid in prison. That's not counting the police work and the court. They could put them through college for that. If the American people really understood this, I think they would demand change. No one's letting them know.
Right.
Well,
no, they just so many don't care. And another thing I wanted to say is about the fluoride they put in water. You know, the Nazis were going to use it for mind control. I mean, I might sound a little bit get into conspiracy here, but if you look into it, fluoride dulls the brain, and they're putting it into the tap water.
Along the lines of conspiracy and so on, I want to end the show on the note of, what do you think, based on your experience, Rick, that Lucie seems to think that the tumor in her brain is hard. It's a hard tumor. Is that true, Lucie?
Yeah, it's a hard tumor.
Okay, so
they're hard or soft.
So do you have any understanding, Rick, of the difference between hard and soft tumors, and any experience of what to expect? And how much oil do you think she could ingest at any one time? I mean, just from your experience?
Well, I mean, I've never really taken anybody's head apart to look at see if they're too hard or soft, to tell you the truth. I mean, my experience with it is just that, you know, to take the oil, I mean, in some situations, I mean, we're all different. So we can all, I mean, some people, in most cases, you can cure most serious cancers with 60 grams in 90 days. Right. But some people may take longer.
Well, see, but just a second, Rick. Lucie did not follow your instructions because she was trying to stretch out the oil. Now, there's a pointer, a practical pointer. Is it a good idea to stretch out or not?
No. The idea is to get the oil in you to overcome the cancer, get ahead of it. So by stretching the oil out, I mean, I'm certain that it did help her, but it would have helped her much more if she had to follow, you know, our protocol.
So a few times she took even more than a gram, and she said that at one time she was able to see with both eyes, and it had been 20 years since she could see with both eyes at the same time. Is that right?
Longer.
Well, I've had all kinds of reports from many people. Even my own eyesight was improved with the use of this oil. But I think if Lucie could take the proper oil in the proper way, I think she would get, you know, both eyes working right again.
So would you suggest that she gets another 90-day regime and takes a gram a day? Will that last a gram a day?
Well, no. I mean, you're doing 60. If she's at the point where she's taking 60 grams or a gram a day in 2 months, she could take the whole treatment. But I don't think there's any harm with people taking even more. I mean, if the day ever comes when I have enough of this oil to do it myself, I would like to take a gram a day for a year just to see what effects it has in my body, because I've seen great, wonderful anti-aging qualities with this oil.
Oh, wow.
And you might even be able to take 2 grams or more a day and not have it affect you, because your body becomes acclimatized to it. You get used to it, And when I do the oil, I mean, people can't even tell that I'm taking it. There's no side effects. There's no big bloodshot eyes. I'm not impaired in any way. My thinking processes are working perfectly. So, you know, to me, it's like I said, it's not about getting high. It's about getting healed.
Yep.
That's
very. I got all shiny, and my skin got shiny, and I look so healthy. And I think I'm still getting some of it. I think it is stored in your fat. And I am still getting benefits of it.
Yeah, I wish I had some oil because I have bloodshot eyes just naturally. No matter how much rest I get or meditate, I know the radioactive stones aggravate it, but the radioactive stones make my eyesight better, so I don't want to let go of the good eyesight. But I agree with you, Rick. If we had more access to it and had people studying it, I thought we should be giving... Lucie should be a recipient of a study right now, and to see how much oil we can get into her, how quickly. And the worst thing that can happen is she gets a body stone. But then, Joe, you thought there is a point where you get too much oil.
No, I didn't say that. I said if you give people too much too fast, it might make them paranoid, and they might stop taking it.
Oh.
That's my only concern. You know, like me, I'm used to being high, but if you take people who are not used to being high and you give them too much too fast, I'm afraid that they get paranoid and then they stop taking it if you go too strong with it.
Because you were talking about knowing about the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and you and your friends had availed yourself of some deep philosophy so that when you were out for days at a time, it didn't frighten you, whereas other people it would frighten. Is that what you mean?
Yes. You know, and from the psychedelic end of it, or the mystical end of marijuana, you know, the levels that it takes you to on the spiritual level, there's a lot of people that have done evil stuff, and they don't want to see themselves. I mean, it does give you an introspective look where you look deeply at yourself. Your lifestyle and who you are.
Yes. Now,
a whole lot of people that don't want to look at that.
Now, Shanti is saying we shouldn't even bring this up, but I'm feeling it needs to be brought up because psychoanalysis, which I'm very fascinated with, does have a cancer profile. So I think that you can't separate the body from the psychology from the spirituality, so that you have a range of the very physical nature of the body in terms of a sum of parts, you know, organs and chemicals and molecules, but they're arranged in such a way that they're animated by something that goes through psychology all the way to our soul. And I think this has to be taken into account too, and that's why I loved Dr. Tullio Simoncini's book, because he talked about the importance of the soul, and he said that a real doctor of the past would take this into account, like your family doctor would be inclined to understand if you were kind of had a moral dilemma that was pressing on you, so that you can't take just a pill, even magical oil, and have and avoid certain life obligations and challenges and really opportunities. So I think that the psychedelic experience, when people said this is not about getting high, I was going along with it. I don't get high. I haven't had the oil. I don't smoke. But I do think...
About the bill, that's all.
Excuse me, Lucie?
When I said it's not about getting high, I was just talking about the legislation in California.
No, I know you mean that, but I'm saying for me, it fell on my ears, and I think it limited me in understanding what this was. So when Joe said, we have to wrap it up, I only have a minute for my show.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Paula Gloria, over and out.
In terms of the motion practice, as far as the...
it's so lengthy. If you go to freedomfirstparty.org, all my paperwork has been put up there.